One.
And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is a special UFC 253 prediction show covering UFC 253 this Saturday. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Acosta. John Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes for the light heavyweight title. Elijah,
Vacant.
we're
Vacant light heavyweight title.
vacant light heavyweight title. Elijah, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. It's a Friday. I'm off. You're off.
Mm-hmm.
I have no complaints. I'm just finishing up the last rounds of applications for our PA program. So hopefully we get some good energy out. We get finish those by today and get the money out too, because they all require money, unfortunately. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
good. No complaints. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Like I said, uh, honestly, I don't think I'm never off. I'm constantly doing other stuff like interviews and stuff like that. So, and I have one hopefully coming up next week, so which I could give to you guys. So I can't wait for that. But other than that, man, I am doing very well. Pay-per-view is already bought. Everybody has made weight except for old boy that's fighting Hakeem Dawadu.
Which is interesting. Tukagov or
Yes.
the same guy? He's actually in Things Camp. He kind of, I think he trains with some of I believe Khabib's. He's probably one of the guys who's known with being around Khabib. Bottom line.
That name
Zubair.
that name sounds familiar.
Zubair.
Was he one of the people that was in the ring with Connor?
Yeah, I
That's
believe so. I
that's what that
believe
name
so.
reminds me of a little bit.
I believe he was actually one of the people who was in the ring in the ring.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that name sounded familiar, but I couldn't really pin it on. But he missed four pounds. That fight is still on apparently, so nothing to worry about that.
Dawado's looking to make a name for himself. He's a strong contender at 145, so he ain't shying away from nothing.
Yeah. But no, listen, man, I am glad everybody made weight. Interesting that no COVID cases or no positive tests came up in Fight Island. So
I also want to say at this point, they probably have gotten the system. I'm not saying this is, of course, this could be due to the UFC. Of course, this just could be that no one's getting COVID. But I think given the card, I think everyone's had enough time to kind of, set aside their camps and make sure they isolate correctly while also having training partners come in. So I think this with the amount of time has been spent just, with this card in general, because this card was announced, I think maybe like 2-3 months ago, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think given the amount of time they did that, they probably wanted to really make sure that this card was right and locked down and that no one backed out. So I feel like that's really the reason why.
Yeah, I just feel like the ratio between people getting testing positive in Fight Island compared to testing positive in what is it? Vegas, Apex Center.
Different.
It's more higher of a chance I've seen people get tested and drop out of fights in the Apex Center than in Fight Island. I just thought that was an interesting observation.
Well, I think that also has to be. I think you're correct in your observation because I think Las Vegas may not be on one of the travel itinerary states anymore, but at a certain point it was, and so that's when you did see high incidence of people getting in the Apex Center because UFC had their last couple of shows at the Apex Center. That's where you saw like a high number of people, not a high number of people, but a considerable amount of people dropping out due to being positive for COVID. So you're right. I think when it's here in the U.S., and you notice that there's a little bit more people dropping out of a fight due to COVID as opposed to at Yas Island.
Yeah. And to the viewer watching, thank you for watching. Please join in the chat. Tell us who you think will win this Saturday. Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya, John Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes. Man, I am ready to go. Pay-per-view is already bought.
Same, sir.
Where do you want to start?
Let's get Jan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes over because I feel like dominantly. This fight, in my opinion, for the vacant light heavyweight belt against two top guys. You have Jan Blachowicz, who's coming off an impressive win of Corey Anderson, and you have Dominic Reyes, who's coming off of a loss to John Jones, the former champ. These two guys are basically the top of the division at the moment, right? With Thiago Santos engaged with a fight with Glover Teixeira. You have Anderson who's coming off a loss. You have your boy, what's his name again? Your boy who just got in the UFC and beat Ozdemir.
Jiri Prochazka.
Prochazka is he's now ranked, but he's not necessarily up there to fight for the belt just yet. So you have at this moment, this is that moment where we have a wild west for the belt, right? At this moment, this could be Dominic Reyes' fight. This could be Jan Blachowicz. I am gonna go Jan though. I'm gonna go Jan. I'm gonna go against the grain. I know the money and the the smart bet would be to be Dominic Reyes, but I think the skill set of Jan Blachowicz, as of right now, has still yet to be determined because he's still growing and he's moved away from his old camp and his new camp that he used to be back with back in the old day when he was winning. He's back with them, so I'm interested to see if he can continue that success and have it there. What about you, Tyreece?
The thing about this fight for me, and going back, I paid close attention. I watched some of their old fights and tried
Yeah.
to see, weaknesses and positives and advantages on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, for Dominic Reyes, is I feel like we still have yet to see what Dominic Reyes is about. I know people are the John Jones fight was a big eye opener for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like that wasn't even a true test to see where where Dominic Reyes is at in his career,
Mm-hmm.
and where he stands at possibly being a champion for a long time or being a champion. Uh, the John Blachowicz, though, we've seen a little bit of elevation, evolution of his game, to where I went back and watched his Alexander Gustafsson fight to just studying, because Dominic Reyes is a bigger fighter, studying how we did with Alexander Gustafsson. He lost, but just looking at the changes from like how he stands, like
Yeah.
the simple thing of how he stands now, to where in Alexander Gustafsson's fight he's a lot flat-footed, a lot more flat-footed, just trying to stalk him and everything like that, and getting caught. To where now, recently he's bouncing a little bit more on his feet. He's still flat-footed, but he has a little bit more bounce to it a little bit.
His boxing is his base. I think that's what you're attesting to because he
Yeah,
he definitely is more hands oriented as opposed to throwing kicks. But what
yeah,
we've seen is that he's not elusive. It's just the defense. His defense has gotten a lot better, I think, when he's become stationary. And in that last fight with Corey Anderson, what we saw was the way he finished Corey Anderson. I believe was a hook when Corey Anderson threw a leg kick,
yeah.
and that was perfectly timed. Right? I think he has the power. I think honestly, if he can get past the body kick and the left straight of Dominic Reyes, I do think he ends up walking him down and possibly getting the decision. But in my opinion, I don't see this fight. I don't know if I see this fight necessarily going to decision. Also, you didn't say your pick. Who would you have?
Well, no, I'll get into that. So
Yeah, good.
the thing about it also is Dominic Reyes, the Ozdemir fight. The Ozdemir fight is the one fight we could say, okay, there's something there to where Ozdemir was able to land on Dominic Reyes with that right hand.
Yeah.
Who has a good right hand?
My boy Jan Blachowicz.
John Blachowicz.
He has a good left and he has a good right. He was shown to knock out Luke Rockhold with the left hook off because Luke Rockhold doesn't keep his right guard up, and that's what he caught him. So you're right. That's a very good point. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he dropped Corey Anderson, I believe, with a right hand, with the leg kick. So like my thought process is Dominic Reyes, the way he has to win is to be able to mix in his grappling and his striking, not just to look to the grappling and not set it up. He has to set it up with the strikes. That's how Gustafsson was able to take Blachowicz down and be able to control the fight. I think Dominic Reyes will utilize that because he is somebody that will use his wrestling when need to. The leg kicks he has to be watch out for.
The
counter, but
the counter is always there.
If Dominic Reyes can stay on the outside with his leg kicks and his body kicks, I think Dominic Reyes can beat Jan Blachowicz. I think he can. I think he has too much. He has too much of a striking advantage in terms of being able to not just stand still, but also be able to work on the outside. He has the reach advantage. He's able to mix in his grappling. I got Dominic Reyes by decision.
Ooh, by decision. I see this fight going one way, right? Because this fight's really a lot. It's not as close as people think, but it's also the gap in their skill isn't as big as a lot of people make it seem, right? We have Dominic Reyes, who's physically he's bigger than him in terms of height, in terms of reach advantage. And obviously that's going to be used. We know Dominic Reyes can fight backwards, which is one of the bigger determinants of the fight, right? For someone pushing forward and for someone who can't fight backwards, that may present some issues. Dominic Reyes has been shown to be able to fight backwards. So that's one advantage I give to him. The thing I give to Jan is I think the countering ability might be there. And that's something that I don't know if Dominic Reyes, because in the Ozdemir fight, Ozdemir was able to counter a lot based on a couple of hits. So and with Jan's power, I wonder if he'll be able to, be rocking anything. So I think the smart decision would be Dominic Reyes, but the underdog tells me for some reason something tells me Jan Blachowicz might just do it.
John is not an underdog by any chance. Again, we
No.
still have yet to see really how good Dominic Reyes is. We've seen a little bit in the John Jones fight,
Yeah.
but John Jones won that fight, and he took that fight from Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
The thing also with Dominic Reyes is the cardio. How does the cardio hold up against somebody that's going to push forward? And if John Blachowicz can utilize the leg kicks, hit the leg kicks early to stop the movement of Dominic Reyes becomes a stationary target to where now it's even playing field.
And that's
That's what I think John Blachowicz needs to do is work on the leg kicks early,
very early
to stop Dominic Reyes from moving.
I think if I'm Dominic Reyes' team, I'm also, like you said, using the striking to engage in a little bit of wrestling, but I also want to see clinch work. With you being the naturally bigger fighter, the knees are usually there for bigger fighters up the middle. Sometimes you can get clipped, so you need to watch out. But I also want to see him implement elbows. If he's able to implement elbows at his power and his strength in those clinches and off the break, like we've been seeing a lot of fighters having success, being that size and having that kind of power, and elbows don't really take they don't take as much energy as throwing a punch, if I'm being honest with you. So if we see the evolution, I don't even know if we can call it evolution on Dominic Fire because we haven't seen the full game behind him. And I still think that maybe we're presented with Jan Blachowicz' game, but I think his game is evolving where he's filling in those chinks in his armor. Right. In my opinion, right? So that's kind of where those two fighters are at right now. We have one who's kind of filling in those gaps. He's not changing his style, but then we have the other one who necessarily hasn't shown what he's capable of. Because I think if Jan was to go against Jones, Jan would have less success than Dominic Reyes has, right? Agreed. And if we were to judge them both by their loss by Jones, and then they were to fight now, I think we'd have a very different perspective of who was going to win the fight, right? Yeah. But because Jan didn't fight Jones yet, and Jones was the king of the 205, I still think there's something to be obtained there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Reyes gets it done. Honestly, I think Reyes has he's one of the more complete fighters in that division, but he definitely he's a future champ. So we'll see.
Yeah, the division that's not really full of contenders now. Everybody's pretty much already fought each other, and they're still trying to rise up the ranks. Dominic Reyes right now can be, if he beats John, I can see him being the championship for a while.
He can be a dominant champion for quite some time. I give you that.
So we're both going Dominic Reyes, right?
I'm gonna just go against you and go Jan. I'm gonna just go against you for this one.
You're not wrong. I mean, it could honestly go either way. We still don't know how good Dominic Reyes is.
And that's the thing. That's because we were talking about this even in the Jones fight. We were like, well, like Dominic Reyes is that's going to be a hard fight for Jones. And so again, it's going to be a hard fight. It's going to be a long night for both of them. But the way this fight ends is either by decision with one man looking more impressive than the other, or someone gets finished within the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 outcomes. Those are the only 2 outcomes for this fight. I mean, I know we talk about like people getting submitted and things like that, but those are the only 2 outcomes possible. But I'll go against you for this one, only this one. But I definitely agree. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, Jan is gonna win, like he has in the bag. Honestly, I'm you know what I mean. I'm always on the fence, and I could have gone either way. And you definitely presented a great argument for Dominic Reyes. But now, Tyriece. Oh, sorry.
No, I'd say I agree with you. Like honestly, this one could go either way. I was on the fence too, but we have to make a pick. And if you're looking at style wise, Dominic Reyes is the easiest pick to out of both of them.
But a good pick, nonetheless.
A good pick. This one, no, I think we're both on the same side of this one.
Tyriece Simon. This is the fight we've been waiting for since we saw Costa versus Israel Adesanya. For most of you who know, Israel Adesanya fought Costa earlier this year, I believe.
No, you mean Yoel Romero.
Oh, sorry, Yoel Romero. Sorry, yeah. Yep. Israel Adesanya fought Yoel Romero to a 5-round contest, and he emerged the victor earlier this year. I believe that was in March.
Yes.
That was in March. And what we saw from that fight was everyone was assuming it was going to be this big bar burner. We kind of knew we were going to get from this fight. The fight it wasn't lackluster, but it seemed like there were fighters. Bottom line, we have tomorrow night Israel, the last outbender, Adesanya versus Paulo the Eraser Costa. Tyriece, give me your breakdown for who is going to win this fight.
This one is a hard one, man. It's way harder than the Dominic Reyes and John Blachowicz fight because we do have some information to go off of here.
Yeah.
Costa is a dangerous matchup because the thought process is he'll move forward. Israel Adesanya, the narrative is that if you get Israel Adesanya in a dogfight, in a fight where he stands in the middle and has to trade with you, Costa is going to win. He can knock him out. That is
Yeah.
the narrative here.
Yeah.
The overwhelming power of Costa will give Israel Adesanya problems. The problem with that is we've kind of seen that already. We've
Yeah.
not just the Gastelum fight. We've seen it with Brad Tavares. With Brad Tavares, I would give Brad Tavares more of that Brad Tavares fight more of a reason to go with Adesanya here than the Kevin Gastelum fight, because we've seen Adesanya be able to stand in the pocket with somebody, being able to shoulder roll, move his head movement, and able to fire back. Now, I don't recommend it.
No.
I think it'll be a
No.
horrible idea to do that against
For a guy
Costa.
this strong.
Yes. My keys to victory for Adesanya is him using his range. The thing about the
As
Costa,
every fight. As every
yeah,
fight.
Costa in the fight against Uriah Hall. One of the things that gave Costa a problem with the jab. Obviously, Costa was able to overcome that and knock Uriah Hall out. But reasons why he was able to, Uriah Hall stopped with the leg kicks. He stopped moving. He became stationary. Adesanya needs to be able to move. He needs to be able to keep Costa on the outside and pick him apart.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Wow, thank you. Okay, so all right, that's the show here. All right, thank you guys. Thanks for coming.
Oh, was that my part to talk? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I thought
yeah, no, I'll let you
I didn't
respond.
pick up. I was like, damn, this man's on a roll. Give me some more. But I'll pick it from there. I agree with you. I think Israel Adesanya, the best thing about his striking, right, is that his striking relies on his mobility. Now, it's harder to chop away at his legs because he uses his range just so well. It's possible. It's not impossible, but you leave yourself at risk. And with a guy like Kelvin Gastelum in that fight, what we noticed is Kelvin didn't really go to the go to the legs as much, right? He didn't have to because Kelvin had the striking to go up top and clip him and ended up dropping him in certain parts of the fight. With a guy like Costa, who's physically bigger than Israel Adesanya, I believe that gives Israel Adesanya the advantage because now he has a bigger target to hit. He doesn't have to worry about going down and making sure he can hit a guy who's about maybe like 5'9", 5'10". He doesn't have to worry about he has to be precise as normal. Like the precision has to come in this fight. But with a bigger target, that kind of calculation that he has to make in a split second to adjust to Kelvin Gastelum's frame doesn't need to happen with a guy like Costa. You know what I mean? So I think that's good. Overall, those reaction times and those like still differences are going to give him better. And I think what will make him victorious in this fight is the fact that he will create pockets only when necessary. Other than that, he's going to pick him apart. Israel's going to pick him apart consistently. I think it's going to be leg, body, head, leg. I think the creativity is going to have to be on Israel's part in order to win because I think Costa's become good enough to the point where he can pick up and read things. And that's what's contributed to a lot of his success in his career is that he's been able to adapt really well in fights. But I just don't know if he can adapt to the full arsenal that Adesanya brings to the table.
Yeah, the thing about Costa is Costa is really, really good. He is really, really good.
There's a reason he's the number one contender in that division. There's a
And
reason.
and the thing about Costa, the thing I would give Costa the advantage of, the things that I think Costa can give Israel Adesanya some problems is Israel Adesanya he can get low. Like you can lull Adesanya to a level of security that he thinks that he's not in danger. Kevin Gastelum was able to, do little tricks like switching his stance and in split seconds in order to hurt Israel Adesanya in the first round with that I think it was the right hand or left hand that stumbled.
I believe it was a left hand because that was his
It was the left hand because it stumbled Adesanya backwards. There was a knuckle to the face that image you've seen. So if Costa can do that, he can lower him. Also, another thing that likes to do is fade his head back. He likes to fade backwards. A lot of times, Adesanya keeps his hands down, so you can't see the strikes coming.
Which is a positive for him, but also a negative.
Right, but he also does on the outside. However, what Costa likes to do, and we've seen him do, is the upward jab. So if he's able to feint and get Adesanya to react, because Adesanya, the biggest strength of he is able to react to what you do before you're able to do it. So if you're able to feint and get Adesanya to move back or to move, You can then work on trying to do the upward jab in order to catch Adesanya.
Yeah. That's the issue, right? With guys with this range is that someone's going to have to push forward them unless they stalk you down. But generally, people push forward at Israel Adesanya. That's just it, right? They come
Right.
after him. His matador like skill in luring you to the point where he gets you to he can snipe and bop bop or strike and move away, strike and move out, and that elusiveness that works for him. But like you said, when you keep your hands down in your striking, you leave yourself open too. And I think with Paulo Costa being a bigger guy at 6'1", and he does have the range to a degree, I think he'll be able to trick Israel. I think if I'm Costa's corner, all right, I think the feints are gonna have to be rounds 1 through 5. Have to be 1 through 5. And I think going to the body and legs early are the key to winning this fight. There's no other way. You're not gonna win this fight on head strikes alone. Head hunting is not gonna get the job done. I think it's gonna have to be combos, right? Sorry, I heard that. No, so in the what's the countdown, right? I believe that's the show that comes on. So I was watching Costa, and what Costa he brought in training partners who have similar size to Israel Adesanya, and I thought that was the most effective thing he could have done, right? Because the regular training partners are not going to cut it, right? You need guys who specialize in striking. He brought in 2 kickboxers, one who was a little bit bigger in the torso but still had the height, and one who was just as skinny and lanky but as equal height as Israel Adesanya. I think that prepares him on another level for this fight. That's what may give him a slight edge in terms of things, but he has to be creative and he has to pick. I don't think he can pick his shots and just wait. He has to be creative and make Israel Adesanya double guess himself. Because that's when we see Israel at his worst, is when he double guess. It doesn't happen often because he has the utmost confidence. But when he double guesses himself, and he's hesitant to do things, like in the first round when Kelvin gassed him, that's how Kelvin was actually able to drop him. He caught him with the leap in left, and then boom, dropped Israel. Israel stumbled back onto the cage. Knuckle hit him straight in the face. He went down. And the same thing happened in the fight with Yoel Romero. Israel was like, nah, he's not going to hit me. Walked in. Yoel Romero caught him with a overhand right that ended up having, caught him just straight on in the face. And Israel was like, ooh, after that, I'm never letting him hit me with that again, because he knew. So I think giving him that false sense of security is the greatest way to beat Israel Adesanya. The issue is Izzy is just this fight's not going to the ground either. You eliminate the total, this fight. I don't see this fight going to the ground at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I don't think, if it was grappling, I think Adesanya would have the advantage also, because I think Adesanya's defensive grappling has improved very well, to which he's able to throw up triangles, and as soon as he gets to the ground, he's already throwing up triangles and arm bars. So I like the fight is going to be stand up.
This fight is stand up. This fight is stand up for however long it goes.
The issue is, can Costa lure Adesanya to a level of security to where he thinks he can't get touched? To which I think Costa can. I just don't know if Costa is going to have enough firepower to give in order to land to be able to knock him out. You understand what I'm saying? I think Adesanya can take a strike and roll with the strike better than anyone. And I think Costa will land on Adesanya. I don't think it'll be enough.
I think we'll see if he's able to do what we said in the beginning of the round, right? Body and legs. I think that changes the game. If we can't get that within the first 2 rounds, those last championship rounds, if we can't get that in the first 3 rounds, it's going to be a long night for Costa, because Costa's not going to be able to make it out, because Israel's going to have the speed from round. He's going to have the mobility and agility better than him, even though it's the late rounds, right? The championship rounds. So good.
I'll say, and he'll pick them apart.
He'll pick them apart at the same time.
Yeah. And another thing that Costa does that works against him a little bit is his short arms. He don't have the same reach as I think who did Adesanya just fought?
Yeah, Whitaker. It's interesting, right? With body wise, you would think that Whitaker's the smaller guy. Whitaker's 6 foot, but Whitaker actually has a pretty good reach in terms of hitting Israel in that fight.
Right, and Costa likes, if he can't. The issue with him also, if you're the bigger guy, he'll reach out and he'll reach out to try to go on the inside. You cannot do that against somebody like Adesanya, who will pick you apart that way as well. From being able to step back and hit the right hook, or being able to hit you on the outside and be able to be out the way. Like that's another big issue with Costa. Also,
Good.
I would also I'm not trying to wrap this up. Also, I wonder if Adesanya has made the point about eye pokes.
Yeah.
I think that could be a big issue with Costa trying to reach and get on the inside.
I agree. I think that's something to look out for because that's something that's also been in his fights as well. When I
Yeah.
think about, we'll summarize this now. When I think about all the guys that Israel fought coming up, and then I think about those guys versus Costa, right? I think Costa's biggest fight was Yoel Romero. Israel's Adesanya's biggest fight was Kelvin Gastelum. Israel arguably fought more people to the belt than Costa did. I think in dealing with guys like you mentioned earlier, what's his name? I just forget the Hawaiian.
Brad Tavares.
Brad Tavares. And fighting a guy like Brad Tavares, he adjusted for the knockout power that could possibly come. And fighting a guy like Martin Vettori, he adjusted for a big brutish guy who pushed forward on him, right? So I think Israel has made enough adjustments from the fights, or he has that experience from the fights he's had to know that how this can play out and that he has to do certain things in order to do that. I don't know if with Costa not fighting a guy like Israel, just like not fighting someone of that same type, only training with them, I wonder if his experience will allow him to overcome that, which is why I'm going to go Israel out of. Are we going to pick the finish or like how the decision, or are we just going straight person?
We'll pick the finish.
I'm going to go Israel Adesanya by decision. I'm gonna be safe in that. I'm gonna play it safe. Definitely Israel Adesanya by probably by 40. What is it? 45, 49.
Okay. I would disagree with you on one thing. I think Costa's toughest matchup was Uriah Hall, and I think Uriah Hall.
Well, let me say toughest fight, not matchup. Let me correct myself because if we're talking matchup, we're talking based on what the style presents. If we're talking fight, we're looking at the fight that he had. So I'm going to correct myself. I'm going to say toughest fight to date was actually Yoel Romero.
Okay. I can agree with that.
Toughest matchup, I can agree with. I can definitely agree with Uriah Hall.
Yeah, I think Uriah Hall presented a similar problem to what Costa's going to deal with, to where Costa's going to have to try to get on the inside. And I think the issue with that is I think Adesanya will have a better idea of being able to keep moving. I think the biggest issue is not being stationary and keep moving and pick them apart with body kicks, with leg kicks, with his jab, and also making Costa pay when he tries to lunge in. Costa likes to lunge in, and he leaves his hands down.
Yeah,
that is a big problem against somebody that's very reactionary and is able to make split-second decisions where he can move on the outside and pop you with a right hand, or move back up and hit you with something.
It's interesting. The backup switch stance, he's able to not only hit the issue. Sorry, not to cut you off, but in his training, you see this on the countdown, and him backing up on his back foot, like so he'll be orthodox and he'll switch to southpaw. He has two danger, and most people can either do like a hook or a jab or whatever. Both his hands are as lethal at that moment because he can fire the straight from his left hand. He can fire the right. He can fire an elbow. He can fire a knee. Most people can't follow up in that position. So that I agree with you with that. Those split decisions that he makes are going to be hard for him if he doesn't necessarily make those decisions to lunge in like he usually does. So sorry again.
No, I say that all to say I think Adesanya picks Costa apart, and I think he beats Costa. I would say, if not a stoppage in the second round, I would say a third round knockout.
I say, you know what? I'll go fourth round finish by Israel. Why? Because I think he brings.
It's not going to decision for me.
Huh?
It's not going to decision for me.
I think it. You know what? Oh damn! I want to be strong, but I also see, like you're right. Like I see Israel pick him apart till he gets into a point, but Costa is just so tough. That's the issue. So I don't know if he gets finished. That's my biggest thing. So you know what? I'm gonna stick with my original decision. I think it's decision.
Yeah. I mean, we have seen Costa drop too. We've seen it with the Yoel Romero fight. We've seen it with the Uriah Hall fight, where again he leaves his hands down, and you can't do that against somebody that is very reactionary, to where he can switch his stance and move on the outside and hit you with something, or catch you with something.
Agreed.
Back, or catch you with a knee. So I have Adesanya by knockout. I'm saying the second round or third.
It's fair. It's fair.
that is our predictions. I'm definitely watching it. Another fight to look out for is Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval. I'm looking out for that. And I can't wait to come on here Sunday and talk with you guys.
Oh yeah. We might have some guests on Sunday, so we'll see.
Yes. Thank you, Elijah, for coming on. I appreciate you. We'll be back this Sunday at 12 o'clock. So we're saying 12 o'clock? 11 o'clock?
Soft 11:30.
All right, 11:30. We'll be back on 11:30 Sunday to talk UFC 253. Signing off, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Roger Jones.
This is MMA Renegade. Yes, MMA Renegade.
MMA Renegade. Like, whoa, bye.
Bye, guys.